Hello and welcome to Infinite Jest's live reading of Dylan Thomas Under Milkwood. Thank you for joining us this evening in celebrating his work. This evening I am joined by Tristan Davis and Matthew Robson, who are going to be playing the voices this evening. And the other characters will be played by Natalie Clack, Philip May, Louise Smith, Chris Hubel, Graham Perkins, Jonathan Wheeler, and myself, Leanne Knibb. So, I hope you enjoy this evening's reading. So let's start at the very beginning. This is the reading of Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood.
To begin at the beginning. It is spring moonless night in the small town, starless and Bible black. The cobble streets silent and the hunched courtiers and rabbits wood, limping invisible down to the slow black, crow black, fishing boat bobbing sea. The houses are as blind as moles, though moles see fine tonight in the snouting velvet dingles, or blind as Captain Cat, there in the muffled middle by the pump and the town clock, the shops in mourning, the welfare hall in widow's weeds, and all the people of the lull and dumbfound town are sleeping now.
Hush, the babies are sleeping. The farmers, the fishers, the tradesmen and pensioners, cobbler, school teacher, postman and publican, the undertaker and fancy woman, drunkard, dressmaker, preacher, policeman, the webfoot cocklewoman and the tidy wives. Young girls lie bedded soft or glide in their dreams with rings and trousseau, bridesmaided by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked or of the bucking ranches of the night and the jolly Rogered sea, and the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope sly, streaking and needling on the one cloud of the roofs.
You can hear the dew falling and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town fast and slow asleep. And you alone can hear the invisible starfall, the darkest before dawn, minutely dew-grey stir of the black dab-filled sea, where the Arethusa, the curlew and the skylark, Zanzibar, Rhiannon, the rover, the cormorant, and the star of Wales tilt and ride. Listen, it is night moving in the streets, the processional salt-slow musical wind in Coronation Street and Cockle Row. It is the grass growing on Llanrheagydd Hill, dewfall, starfall, the sleep of birds in Milkwood.
Listen, it is night in the chill squat chapel, hymning in bonnet and brooch and bombazine black, butterfly choker and bootlace bow, coffin like nanny goat sucking mintos. 40 winking hallelujah, night in the 4 ale, quiet as a domino. In Ocky Milkman's loft like a mouse with gloves, and Dye Bread's bakery flying like black flour. It is night in Donkey Street, trotting silent with seaweed on its hooves, like the cockled cobbles past curtained fernpot, text and trinket, harmonium, holy dresser, watercolors done by hand, china dog and rosy tin tea caddy. It is night neddying among the snuggeries of babies.
Look, it is night, dumbly, royally, winding through the coronation cherry trees, going through the graveyard of Bethesda with wings gloved and folded, and dew doffed, tumbling by the sailor's arms. Time passes. Listen, time passes. Come closer now. Only you can hear the houses sleeping in the streets in the slow, deep salt and silent black bandaged night. Only you can see in the blinded bedrooms the combs and petticoats over the chairs, the jugs and basins, the glasses of teeth, thou shalt not on the wall, and the yellowing dicky bird watching pictures of the dead. Only you can hear and see behind the eyes of the sleepers, the movements and countries and mazes and colours and dismays and rainbows and tunes and wishes and flight and fall and despairs and big seas of their dreams. From where you are, you can hear their dreams. Captain Cat, the retired blind sea captain, asleep in his bunk in the seashell, chip-in-bottle, chip-shaped best cabin of Schooner House, dreams of...
Never such seas as any that swamped the decks of his SS Kidwelly, bellying over the bedclothes and jellyfish slippery sucking him down salt deep into the Davy dark, where the fish come biting out to nibble him down to his wishbone, and the long drown nuzzle up to him.
Remember me, Captain?
Oh, Dancing Williams.
Lost my step in Nantucket.
Do you see me, Captain? The white bone talking. I'm Tom Fred the Donkey Man. We shared the same girl once. Her name was Mrs. Probert.
Rosie Probert, 33 Duck Lane. Come on up, boys. I'm dead.
Hold me, Captain. I'm Jonah Jarvis, come to a bad end. Very enjoyable.
Alfred Pomeroy Jones, sea lawyer, born in Mumbles, sung like a linnet, crowned with a flag and tattooed with mermaids, thirst like a dredger, died of blisters.
The skull at your ear hole is...
Curly Bevan. Tell my auntie it was me that pawned the Omelo clock.
Aye, aye, Curly.
Tell my missus, no, I never.
I never done what she said. I never.
Yes, they did.
And who brings coconuts and shawls and parrots to my Gwen now?
How's it above?
Is there rum and lava bread?
Bosoms and robins.
Constantina's.
Ebenezer's bell.
Fighting and onions?
And sparrows and daisies?
Tiddlers in a jam jar.
Buttermilk and whippets.
Rockabye baby.
Washing on the line?
And old girls in the snug?
How's the tenors in Dowlice?
Who milks the cows in my squin?
When she smiles, is there dimples?
What's the smell of parsley?
Oh, my dead dears.
From where you are, you can hear in Cockle Row in the spring moonless night, Miss Price, dressmaker and sweet shopkeeper, dream of...
Her lover, tall as the town clock tower, Samson's syrup gold maned, quacking thighed and piping hot, thunderbolt based and barnacle breasted, flailing up the cockles with his eyes like blow lamps and scooping low over her lonely, loving, hot water bottle body.
Myfanwy Price.
Mr. Mog Edwards.
I am a draper mad with love. I love you more than all the flannelette and calico, candlewick dimity, crash and merino, tussore, creton, crepon, muslin, poplin, ticking and twill in the whole cloth hall of the world. I have come to take you away to my emporium on the hill, where the change hums on wires. Throw away your little bed socks and your Welsh wool knitted jacket. I will warm the sheets like an electric toaster. I will lie by your side like the Sunday roast.
I will knit you a wallet of forget-me-not blue for the money to be comfy. I will warm your heart by the fire so that you can slip it under your vest when the shop is closed.
Myfanwy, Myfanwy. Before the mice gnaw at your bottom drawer, will you say,
Yes, Mog, yes, Mog, yes, yes, yes.
and all the bells of all the tills in the town shall ring for our wedding.
Come now, drift up the dark. Come up the drifting sea-dark street, now in the dark night, seesawing like the sea, to the Bible-black airless attic over Jack Black the cobbler's shop, where, alone and savagely, Jack Black speaks in a nightshirt tied to his ankles, with elastic and dreams of...
Chasing the naughty couples down the grass-green, gooseberried double bed of the wood, flogging the tosspots of the spit and sawdust, driving out the bare, bold girls from the sixpenny hops of his nightmares.
Dachavi! Dachavi!
Evans the Death, the Undertaker,
Laughs high and aloud in his sleep and curls up his toes as he sees, upon waking 50 years ago, snow lie deep on the goosefield behind the sleeping house. And he runs out into the field where his mother is making Welsh cakes in the snow, and steals a fistful of snowflakes and currants and climbs back to bed to eat them cold and sweet, under the warm white clothes while his mother dances in the snow kitchen, crying out for her lost currants.
And in the little pink-eyed cottage next to the undertaker's lie alone the 17 snoring gentle stone of Mr. Waldo, rabbit catcher, barber, herbalist, cat doctor, quack, his fat pink hands palms up over the edge of the patchwork quilt, his black boots neat and tidy in the washing basin, his bowler on a nail above the bed, a milk stout and a slice of cold bread pudding under the pillow. And dripping in the dark, he dreams of,
this little piggy went to market. This little piggy stayed at home. This little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy had none. And this little piggy went,
wee, 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 wee,
all of the way home to
Waldo! Waldo!
Yes, Bloodwind, love?
Oh, what'll the neighbours say? What'll the neighbours?
Oh, Mrs. Waldo,
what she puts up with.
never should have married.
If she didn't do,
Same as a mother,
there's a husband for you.
bad as his father.
And you know where he ended?
At the asylum,
Crying for his ma.
every Saturday,
He hasn't got a log.
and carrying on
With that Mrs. B.T. Morris.
up in the quarry.
And seeing her baby.
It's got his nose.
Oh, it makes my heart bleed.
Oh, what he'll do for drink.
He sold his pianola.
And his sewing machine,
Falling in the gutter.
talking to the lamppost,
Using language.
singing in the W.
Poor Mrs. Waldo.
Oh, Waldo! Waldo!
Hush, love, hush! I'm widower, Waldo, now.
Waldo! Waldo!
Yes, Mum?
Oh, what will the neighbours say? What will the neighbours?
Black as a chimney,
Ringing doorbells,
breaking windows,
making mud pies,
stealing currants,
talking words,
throw him in the bushes,
playing muckins,
send him to bed without any supper,
give him cenopods and lock him in the dark.
off to the reformatory,
Off to the reformatory.
learn him
with a slipper
slipper
on his BTM.
Waldo! Waldo! What do you do with her, Matty?
Give us a kiss, Matty Richards.
Give us a penny then.
I only got halfpenny.
Lips is a penny.
Will you take this woman, Matty Richards?
Dulcie Pothero.
Effie Bevan,
Little the glue pot.
Mrs. Flusher.
Blodwyn Bowen,
To be your awful wedded wife?
No, no, no.
Now in her iceberg white, holily laundered crinoline nightgown, and her virtuous Polish sheets, in her spruced and scoured, dust-defying bedroom, in trig and trim Bayview, a house for paying guests at the top of the town, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, widow twice of Mr. Ogmore, linoleum retired, and Mr. Pritchard, failed bookmaker, who, maddened by besom swabbing and scrubbing, the voice of the vacuum cleaner and the fume of polish ironically swallowed a disinfectant, fidgets in her in sleep, wakes in a dream, and nudges in the ribs, dead Mr. Ogmore, dead Mr. Pritchard, ghostly on either side.
Mr. Ogmore, Mr. Pritchard, it's time to inhale your balsam.
Oh, Mrs. Ogmore.
Oh, Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it'll be time to get up. Tell me your tasks in order.
I must put up my pajamas in the drawer marked pajamas.
I must take my cold bath, which is good for me.
I must wear my flannel band to ward off sciatica.
I must dress behind the curtain and put on my apron.
I must blow my nose
In the garden, if you please.
in a piece of tissue paper which I afterwards burn.
I must take my salts, which are nature's friend.
I must boil the drinking water because of germs,
I must take my herb tea, which is free from tannin.
and have a charcoal biscuit which is good for me.
I may smoke one pipe of asthma mixture,
In the woodshed, if you please.
and dust the parlour and spray the canary.
I must put on rubber gloves and search the peak for fleas.
I must dust the blinds, and then I must raise them.
And before you let the sun in, mind it wipes its feet.
In Butcher Bynan's, Gossamer Bynan, daughter, school teacher, dreaming deep, daintily ferrets under a fluttering hammock of chicken's feathers, in a slaughterhouse that has chintz curtains and a three-pieced suite, and finds, with no surprise, a small, rough, ready man with a bushy tail, winking in a paper carrier.
At last, my love.
Sighs Gossamer Bynan, and the bushy tail wags, rude and ginger.
Help!
Cries Organ Morgan, the organist in his dream.
There is perturbation and music in Coronation Street. All the spouses are honking like geese and the baby's singing opera. PC Artilleries has got his truncheon out, and his peg contends us by the pump. The cows from Sunday Meadow ring like reindeer, and on the roof of Handel Villa, see the women's welfare hoofing bloomered in the moon.
At the sea end of town, Mr. and Mrs. Floyd, the Cocklers, is sleeping as quiet as death. Side by wrinkled side, toothless, salt and brown, like two old kippers in a box. And high above in Salt Lake Farm, Mr. Utah Watkins counts all night the wife-faced sheep as they leap the fences on the hill, smiling and knitting and bleating, just like Mrs. Utah Watkins.
34, 35, 36, 48, 89.
Knit one, slip one, knit two together. Pass the slip stitch over.
Ocky Milkman, drowned asleep in Cockle Street, is emptying his churns into the Dewi River.
Regardless of expense.
And weeping like a funeral.
Cherry Owen next door lifts a tankard to his lips, but nothing flows out of it. He shakes the tankard, it turns into a fish. He drinks the fish.
PC Attila Reese lumps out of bed, dead to the dark and still foghorning, and drags out his helmet from under the bed. But deep in the backyard lockup of his sleep, a mean voice murmurs,
"You'll be sorry for this in the morning."
And he heave-hoes back to bed, his helmet swashes in the dark.
Willy-nilly, postman, asleep up street, walks 14 miles to deliver the post as he does every day of the night, and rat-a-tats hard and sharp on Mrs. Willy-nilly.
Oh, don't spank me, please, teacher.
Whimpers his wife at his side, but every night of her married life she has been late for school.
Sinbad sailors over the tap room of the Sailor's Arms, hugs his damp pillow, whose secret name is Gossamer Bynan. A mogul catches Lily Smalls in the washhouse.
Oh, you old mogul.
Mrs. Rose Cottage's eldest maid peels off her pink and white skin in a furnace, in a tower, in a cave, in a waterfall, in a wood, and waits there raw as an onion for Mr. Wright to leap up the burning tall hollow, splashes of leaves like a brilliantined trout.
Call me Dolores, like they do in the stories.
Alone until she dies, Bessie Bighead, hired help, born in the workhouse, smelling of the cowshed, snores bass and gruff on a couch of straw in a loft in Salt Lake Farm, and picks a posy of daisies in Sunday Meadow to put on the grave of Gomer Owen, who kissed her once by the pigsty when she wasn't looking, and never kissed her again, although she was looking all the time. And the inspectors of cruelty fly down into Mrs. Butcher Bynan's dream to persecute Mr. Bynan for selling
Owl meat, dog's eyes, man chop.
Mr. Bynan, in Butcher's bloodied apron, spring heels down Coronation Street, a finger, not his own, in his mouth. Straight-faced in his cunning sleep, he pulls the legs of his dreams and,
Hunting on pigback, shoots down the wild giblets.
Help!
My foxy darling.
Now behind the eyes and secrets of the dreamers in the streets rocked asleep by the sea. See the
tidbits and topsy-turvies, bobs and button-tops, bags and bones, ash and rind and dandruff and nail parings, saliva and snowflakes and molted feathers of dreams, wrecks and sprats and shells and fish bones, whale juice and moonshine, and small salt fry dished up by the hidden sea.
The owls are hunting. Look, over Bethesda gravestones, one hoots and swoops and catches a mouse by Hannah Rees, beloved wife. And in Coronation Street, which you alone can see, it is so dark under the chapel in the skies, the Reverend Eli Jenkins, poet, preacher, turns in his deep towards dawn sleep and dreams of
Eisteddfoda.
He intricately rhymes to the music of Cruth and Pigborn, all night long in his druid seedy nighty, in a beer tent black with parches.
Mr. Pugh, schoolmaster, fathoms asleep, pretends to be sleeping, spies Foxy round the droop of his nightcap, and whistles up.
Murder.
Mrs. Organ Morgan, groceress, coiled grey like a dormouse, opposed to her ears, conjures.
Silence.
She sleeps very dulcet in a cove of wool, and trumpeting Organ Morgan at her side snores no louder than a spider.
Mary Ann Sailors dreams of
The Garden of Eden.
She comes in a smock frock and clogs.
Away from the cool, scrubbed, cobbled kitchen, with the Sunday school pictures on the whitewashed wall, and the farmer's almanac hung above the settle, and the sides of bacon on the ceiling hooks, and goes down the cockle-shelled path of that apple pie kitchen garden, ducking under the Jippo's clothes pegs, catching her apron on the blackcurrant bushes, past bean rows and onion beds and tomatoes ripening on the wall towards the old man playing the harmonium in the orchard, and sits down on the grass at his side and shells the green peas that grow up through the lap of her frock that brushes the dew.
In Donkey Street, so furred with sleep, Die Bread, Polygata, No Good Boyo, and Lord Cutglass sigh before the dawn that is about to be, and dream of
Dreams.
Babies.
Nothing.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
time passes. Listen, time passes. An owl flies home past Bethesda to a chapel in an oak, and the dawn inches up.
Stand on this hill. This is Floregib Hill, old as the hills, high, cool, and green. And from this small circle of stones, made not by druids, but by Mrs. Bynum's Billy, you can see all the town below you sleeping in the first of the dawn. You can hear the lovesick wood pigeons mooning in bed. A dog barks in his sleep farmyards away. The town ripples like a lake in the waking haze.
Less than 500 souls inhabit the 3 quaint streets, and the few narrow by-lanes and scattered farmsteads that constitute this small, decaying watering place, which may indeed be called a backwater of life, without disrespect to its natives, who possess to this day a salty individuality of their own. The main street, Coronation Street, consists for the most part of humble 2-storied houses, many of which attempt to achieve some measure of gaiety by prinking themselves out in crude colors and by the liberal use of pinkwash, though there are remaining a few 18th century houses of more pretension, if, on the whole, in a sad state of disrepair. Though there is little to attract the hill climber, the health seeker, the sportsman, or the weekending motorist, the contemplative may, if sufficiently attracted to spare it some leisurely hours, find in its cobbled streets and its little fishing harbour, in its several curious customs, and in the conversation of its local characters, some of that picturesque sense of the past so frequently lacking in towns and villages which have kept more abreast of the times. The river Dewi is said to abound in trout, but is much poached. The one place of worship, with its neglected graveyard, is of no architectural interest.
The principality of the sky lightens now over our green hill into spring morning, larked and crowed and belling. Who pulls the town hall bell rope but blind Captain Cat? One by one, the sleepers are wrung out of sleep this one morning as every morning, and soon you shall see the chimneys slow up flying snow as Captain Cat, in sailor's cap and sea boots, announces today with his loud "get out of bed" bell.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins in Bethesda House gropes out of bed into his preacher's black, combs back his bard's white hair, forgets to wash, and pads barefoot downstairs, opens the front door, stands in the doorway, and, looking out at the day and up at the eternal hill, and hearing the sea break and the gab of birds, remembers his own verses and tells them softly to empty Coronation Street that is rising and raising its blinds.
Dear Gwalia, I know there are towns lovelier than ours, and fairer hills and loftier far, and groves more full of flowers, and boskier woods more blithe with spring, and bright with birds adorning, and sweeter bards than I to sing their praise this beauteous morning. By Cadair Idris tempest torn, or Moel yr Oeddfa's glory, Carner Llewellyn beauty born, Plynlimon old in story, by mountains where King Arthur dreams, by Penmaen Mawr defiant, Llaregib Hill a molehill seems, a pygmy to a giant, by Sawdde, Senni, Dyfi D, Edu, Eden, Aled all, Taff and Twy broad and free, Llyfnant with its waterfall, Claerwen, Cleddau, Dillais Daw, Ely, Gwili, Ogwr Nedd. Small is our river Dewi, Lord, a baby on a rushy bed. By Carreg Cennin, king of time, our heron head is only a bit of stone with seaweed spread, where gulls come to be lonely. A tiny dingle is Milkwood, by Golden Grove neath Grongar. But let me choose, and oh, I should love all my life and longer, to stroll among our trees and stray, in Goosegog Lane on Donkey Down, and hear the Dewi sing all day, and never, never leave the town.
The Reverend Jenkins closes the front door. His morning service is over.
Now, woken at last by the out-of-bed sleepyhead, Polly put the kettle on town hall bell. Lily Smalls, Mrs. Bynum's treasure, comes downstairs from a dream of royalty, who all night long went larking with her full of sauce in the Milkwood dark, and puts the kettle on the Primus ring in Mrs. Bynum's kitchen, and looks at herself in Mr. Bynum's shaving glass over the sink, and sees...
Oh, there's a face. Where'd you get that hair from? Got it from old Tom Cat. Give it back then, love. Oh, there's a perm. Where'd you get that nose from, Lily? Got it from my father, silly. You got it on upside down. Oh, there's a conk. Look at your complexion. Needs a bit of makeup. Needs a veil. Oh, there's glamour. Where'd you get that smile, Lil? Never you mind, girl. Nobody loves you. That's what you think. Who loves you? Chantel. Come on, Lily. Cross your heart then. Cross my heart.
And very softly, her lips almost touching her reflection, she breathes the name and clouds the shaving glass.
Lily?
Coming, Mum.
Where's my tea, girl?
Oh, where'd you think? In the cat box. Coming up, Mum.
Mr. Pugh in the schoolhouse opposite takes up the morning tea to Mrs. Pugh and whispers on the stairs.
Here's your arsenic, dear, and your weed killer biscuit. I've throttled your parakeet. I've spat in the vases. I've put cheese in the mouse holes. Here's your nice tea, dear.
Too much sugar?
You haven't tasted it, dear.
Too much milk, then? Has Mr. Jenkins said his poetry?
Yes, dear.
Then it's time to get up. Give me my glasses. No, not my reading glasses. I want to look out. I want to see.
Lily smalls the treasure down on her red knees, washing the front step.
She's tucked her dress in her bloomers. Oh, the baggage.
P.C. Attila Reese, ox broad, barge-booted, stamping out of handcuff house, in a heavy beef-red huff, black-browed under his damp helmet.
He's going to arrest Polly Garter, mark my words.
What for, dear?
For having babies.
And lumbering down towards the strand to see that the sea is still there.
Mary Ann Sailors, opening her bedroom window above the tap room and calling out to the heavens.
I'm 85 years, 3 months and a day.
I will say this for her. She never makes a mistake.
Organ Morgan at his bedroom window, playing chords on the sill to the morning fishwife girls, who, heckling over Donkey Street, observe.
Me, dye bread, hurrying to the bakery, pushing in my shirt tails, buttoning my waistcoat. Ping goes a button, why can't they sew them? No time for breakfast, nothing for breakfast, and there's wives for you.
Me, Mrs. Diebread one, Captain Shawled and no old corset. Nice to be comfy, nice to be nice. Clogging on the cobbles to stir up a neighbour. Oh, Mrs. Sarah, could you spare a loaf, love? Diebread forgot the bread. There's a lovely morning. How's your boils this morning? Ooh, isn't that good news now? It's a change to sit down. Ta, Mrs. Sarah.
Me, Mrs. Diebread too, gypsy to kill in a silky scarlet petticoat above my knees, dirty, pretty knees. See my body through my petticoat, brown as a berry. High heel shoes with one heel missing, tortoise shell comb in my bright black silky hair. Nothing else at all but a dab of scent, lolling gaudy at the doorway. Tell your fortune in your tea leaves, scowling at the sunlight, lighting up my pipe.
Me, Lord Cutglass, in an old frock coat belonged to Eli Jenkins and a pair of postman's trousers from Bethesda Jumble, running outdoors to empty slops. Mind there, Rover. And then running in again, tick-tock.
Me, no good boyo, up to no good in the wash house.
Me, Miss Price, in my pretty pink housecoat, deft at the clothesline, natty as a Jenny Wren. Then pit-pack back to my egg in its cosy, my crisp toast fingers, my homemade plum and butter pat.
Me, Polly Garter, under the washing line, giving the breast in the garden to my bonny new baby. Nothing grows in our garden, only washing. And babies. And where's their fathers live, my love? Over the hills and far away. You're looking up at me now. I know what you're thinking. You poor little milky creature. You're thinking you're no better than you should be, Polly. And that's good enough for me. Oh, isn't life a terrible thing? Thank God.
Now frying pans spit, kettles and cats purr in the kitchen. The town smells of seaweed and breakfast, all the way down from Bayview, where Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, in smock and turban, big bazoomed to engage the dust, picks at a starchless bread and sips lemon rind tea, to Bottom Cottage, where Mr. Waldo, in bowler and bib, gobbles his bubble and squeak and kippers and swigs from the sauce bottle. Mary Ann Sailors.
Praises the Lord who made porridge.
Mr. Pugh.
Remembers ground glass as he juggles his omelette.
Mrs. Pugh.
Nags at the salt cellar.
Willy-nilly postman.
Downs his last bucket of black, brackish tea and rumbles out, bandy to the clucking back where the hens twitch and grieve their tea-soaked sops.
Mrs. Willy-nilly.
Full of tea to her double-chinned brim broods and bubbles over her coven, of kettles on the hissing hot range, always ready to steam open the mail.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins.
Finds a rhyme and dips his pen in his cocoa.
Lord Cutglass in his ticking kitchen.
Scampers from clock to clock, a bunch of clock keys in one hand, a fish hand in the other.
Captain Cat in his galley.
Fine and fine-fingered savors his sea fry.
Mr. and Mrs. Cherry Owen in their Donkey Street room that is bedroom, parlour, kitchen and scullery, Sit down to last night's supper of onions boiled in their overcoats, and broth of spuds and bacon rind and leeks and bones.
See that smudge on the wall by the picture of Auntie Blossom? That's where you threw the Seiko. You only missed me by an inch.
I always miss Auntie Blossom too.
Remember last night? In you reeled my boy, drunk as a deacon, with a big wet bucket and a fish barrel full of stout. And you looked at me and you said, God has come home, you said. And then over the bucket you went, sprawling and bawling, and the floor was all flagons and eels.
Was I wounded?
And then you took your trousers off and you said, does anybody want to fight? Oh, you old baboon.
Oh, give me a kiss.
And then you sang Bread of Heaven, tenor and bass.
I always sing Bread of Heaven.
And then you did a little dance on the table.
I did.
Drop dead.
And then what did I do?
Then you cried like a baby and said you were poor, drunk orphan with nowhere to go but the grave.
And what did I do next, my dear?
Then you danced on the table all over again and said you were King Solomon Owen and I was your Mrs. Sheba.
And
then I got you into bed and you snored all night like a beauty.
From Bynum Butcher's in Coronation Street, the smell of fried liver sidles out with onions on its breath. And listen, in the dark breakfast room behind the shop, Mr. and Mrs. Bynum, waited upon by their treasure, enjoy between bites their every morning hullabaloo, and Mrs. Bynum slips the gristly bits under the tasseled tablecloth to a fat cat.
She likes the liver, Ben?
She ought to, Bess. It's her brother's.
Oh, did you hear that, Lily?
Yes, ma'am.
We're eating Puss cat.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you cat butcher.
It was doctored, mind.
What's that got to do with it?
Yesterday we had mole.
Oh, Lily!
Monday otter, Tuesday shrews.
Oh,
go on, Mrs. Bynum. He's the biggest liar in town.
Don't you dare say that about Mr. Bynum.
Everybody knows it, though.
Mr. Bynum never tells a lie, do you, Ben?
No, Bess. And now I am going out after the corgis with my little cleaver.
Oh, Lily!
Up the street in the Sailor's Arms, Sinbad Sailor's grandson of Mary Ann Sailor's draws a pint in the sunlit bar. The ship's clock in the bar says 11:30. 11:30 is opening time. The hands of the clock have stayed still at 11:30 for 50 years. It is always opening time in the Sailor's Arms.
Here's to me, Sinbad.
All over the town, babies and old men are cleaned and put into their broken prams and wheeled onto the sunlit cockled cobbles or out into the backyards under the dancing underclothes and left. A baby cries.
I want my pipe and he wants his bottle.
Noses are wiped, heads picked, hair combed, paws scrubbed, ears boxed, and the children shrilled off to school.
Fishermen grumbled to their nets. No good boyo goes out in the dingy Zanzibar, ships the oars, drifts slowly in the dab-filled bay, and, lying on his back in the unbaled water, among crabs' legs and tangled lines, looks up at the spring sky.
I don't know who's up there, and I don't care.
He turns his head and looks up at Llaregib Hill and sees among green-laboured trees the white houses of the strewn-away farms, where farm boys whistle, dogs shout, cows low, but all too far away for him or you to hear. And in the town, the shops squeak open. Mr. Edwards, in butterfly collar and straw hat at the doorway of Manchester House, measures with his eye the dawdlers by for striped flannel shirts and shrouds and flowery blouses, and bellows to himself in the darkness behind his eye.
I love Miss Price.
Syrup is sold in the post office. A car drives to market, full of fowls and a farmer. Milk churns stand at Coronation Corner like short silver policemen. And sitting at the open windows of Schooner House, blind Captain Cat hears all the mourning of the town.
Maggie Richards, Ricky Reese, Tommy Powell, our Sal, Little Gawain, Billy Swansea with the dog's voice, one of Mr. Waldo's, Nasty Humphrey, Jackie with the sniff, where's Dickie Albie, and the boys from Tea Pant? Perhaps they got the rash again. Oh, somebody's it. Maggie Richards. 2-1, it's Billy Swansea. Never trust a boy who barks. Right again. It's Billy.
And the children's voices cry away.
That's willy-nilly. Knocking at Bayview. Rat-a-tat. Very soft. The knocker's got kid glove on. Who sent a letter to Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard? Oh, careful now. She swabs the front glassy. Every step's like a bar of soap. Mind your size 12s is. That old Bessie would beeswax the lawn to make the birds slip.
Morning, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
Good morning, postman.
Here's a letter for you, with stamped and addressed envelope enclosed, all the way from Built Wells. A gentleman wants to study birds, and can he have accommodation for 2 weeks and a bath vegetarian?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't know he was in the house, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard. He'd be out in the mornings at the bang of dawn with his bag of breadcrumbs and his little telescope.
And then coming home at all hours covered with feathers. I don't want persons in my nice clean room breathing all over the chairs.
Oh, cross my heart, he won't breathe.
And putting their feet on my carpet, sneezing on my china, and sleeping in my sheets.
Oh, he only wants a single bed, Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard.
And back she goes to the kitchen to polish the potatoes.
Captain Cat hears willy-nilly's feet heavy on the distant cobbles.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's Mrs. Rowe's cottage. What's today? Today she gets the letter from her sister in Goslass. How's the twins' teeth? We stopping at schoolhouse.
Morning, Mrs. Pugh. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard won't have a gentleman in from Built Wells because he'll sleep in her sheets. Mrs. Rose Cottage's sister in Goslass's twins have got to have them out.
Give me the parcel.
It's for Mr. Pugh, Mrs. Pugh.
And never you mind. What's inside it?
A book called Lives of the Great Poisoners.
That's Manchester House.
Morning, Mr. Edwards. Very small news. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard won't have birds in the house, and Mr. Pugh's bought a book on how to do in Mrs. Pugh.
Have you got a letter from her?
Oh, Miss Price loves you with all her heart. Smelling of lavender today. She's down to the last of the elderflower wine, but the quince jam's bearing up, and she's knitting roses on the doilies. Last week, she sold 3 jars of boiled sweets, pound of hamburgs, half a box of jelly babies, and 6 coloured photos of Clegg. Yours forever. Then 21 X's.
Oh, willy-nilly, she's a ruby. Here's my letter. Put it into her hands now.
Mr. Waldo hurrying to the sailor's arms. Pint of stout with an egg in it. There's a letter for him.
It's another paternity summons, Mr. Waldo.
The quick footsteps hurry on along the cobbles and up 3 steps to the sailor's arms.
Quick, Sinbad! Pint of stout and no egg in it.
People are moving now up and down the cobbled street.
All the women are out this morning in the sun. You can tell it's spring. There goes Mrs. Cherry. You can tell her by her trotters. Off she trots, new as a daisy. Who's that talking by the pump? Mrs. Floyd and Boyo talking flatfish. What can you talk about flatfish? Well, that's Mrs. Diebread 1, waltzing up the street like a jelly. Every time she shakes it, slap, slap, slap. Who's that? Mrs. Butcher Bynum with a pet black cat. It follows her everywhere, meow and all. There goes Mrs. 23. Important. The sun gets up and goes down in her dewlap. When she shuts her eyes, it's night. High heels now. In the morning, too. Mrs. Road Cottages. Eldest May. 17 and never been kissed. Oh, going young and milking under my window to the field with the nanny goats. She reminds me all the way. Can't hear what the women are gabbing around the pump. Same as ever. Who's having a baby? Who's blacked whose eye? Seen Polly Garter giving her belly an airing. There should be a law. Seen Mrs. Bynum's new mauve jumper. It's her old grey jumper, dyed. Who's dead? Who's dying? There's a lovely day. Oh, the cost of soap flakes. Morgan's at it early. You can tell it's spring.
And he hears the noise of milk cans.
Rocky milkman on his round. I will say this, his milk's as fresh as the dew. Half dew it is. Snuffle on, Rocky. Water in the town. Somebody's coming. Now the voices round the pump can see somebody coming. Hush. Oh, there's a hush. You can tell by the noise of the hush. It's Polly Garter. Hello, Polly. Who's there?
Me love.
That's Polly Garter. Hello, Polly, my love. Can you hear the dumb goose hiss of the wives as they huddle and peck or flounce at a waddle away? Who cuddled you when? Which of their gandering hubbies moaned in Milkwood for your naughty mother in arms and body like a wardrobe, love? Scrub the floors of the welfare hall for the Mothers' Union social dance. Your one mother won't wriggle her roly-poly bum or pat her fat little buttery feet in that wedding-ringed holy tonight. Though the waltzing breadwinners snatched from the cosy smoke of the sailors' arms will grizzle and mope. Too late, cock, too late.
From the town's half over with its morning. The morning's busy as bees.
There's the clip-clop of horses on the sun-honeyed cobbles of the humming streets, hammering of horseshoes, gobble, quack and cackle, taunted twitter from the Burdown's boughs, braying on Donkey Down. Bread is baking, pigs are grunting, chop goes the butcher, milk churns bell, tills ring, sheep cough, dog shout, saws sing. Oh, the spring whinny and morning moo from the clog-dancing farms, the gulls gab and rabble on the boat-robbing river and sea, and the cockles bubbling in the sand, scamper of sanderlings, curlew cry, crow caw, pigeon coo, clock strike, bull bellow, and the ragged gabble of the Bear Garden School, as the women scratch and babble in Mrs. Organ Morgan's general shop, where everything is sold. Custard, buckets, henna, rat traps, shrimp net, sugar, stamps, confetti, paraffin, hatchets, whistles.
Mrs. Organ Pritchard.
La-di-da.
Got a man in both worlds.
And he got a little telescope to look at birds.
Willie nearly said.
Remember your first husband? He didn't need a telescope.
He looked at them through the keyhole.
And he used to shout, "Tally-ho!"
Sir Ogmore was a proper gentleman.
Even though he hanged his collie.
Seen Mrs. Butcher Bynum?
She said Butcher Bynum put dogs in the mincer.
Oh, go on. He's pulling her leg.
Now, don't you dare tell her that. There's a dear.
Or she'll think he's trying to put it off and eat it.
But there's a nasty lot live here when you come to think.
Look at that no good boyo now.
Oh, too lazy to wipe his snout.
And going out fishing every day, and all he ever brought back was a Mrs. Samuels.
Been in the water a week.
And look at Hawkie Milkman's wife that nobody's ever seen.
He keeps her in the cupboard with the empties.
Oh, and think of dye bread with 2 wives.
One for the daytime and one for the night.
Oh, men are brutes on the quiet.
And how's Morgan, Mrs. Morgan?
You look deadbeat.
It's organ all the time with him.
Up every night until midnight playing the organ.
Oh, I'm a martyr for music.
Outside, the sun springs down on the rough and tumbling town. It runs through the hedges of Goosegog Lane, cuffing the birds to sing. Spring whips green down Cockle Row, and the shells ring out. Llanrhegydd, this snip of a morning, is wild fruit and warm. The streets, fields, sands and waters springing in the young sun.
Evans the Death presses hard with black gloves on the coffin of his breast in case his heart jumps out.
Where's your dignity? Lie down.
Spring stirs Gossamer Bynum's schoolmistress like a spoon.
Oh, what can I do? Find my twitch.
Spring this strong morning foams in a flame in Jack Black as he cobbles a high-heeled shoe for Mrs. Diebread 2, the gypsy. But he hammers it sternly out.
There is no leg belonging to the foot that belongs to this shoe.
The sun and the green breeze ship Captain Cat see Mary again.
No, I'll take the mulatto, by God, who's captain here. Hollywood kid, madam.
Mary Ann says very softly to herself as she looks out at Llanrhegydd Hill from the bedroom where she was born.
It is spring in Llanrhegydd, in the sun, in my old age, and this is the chosen land.
And in willy-nilly, the postman's dark and sizzling, damp, tea-coated, misty, pygmy kitchen, where the spitting cat kettles throb and hop on the range, Mrs. Willy-nilly steams open Mr. Mog Edwards' letter to Miss Myfanwy Price and reads it aloud to Willy-nilly by the squint of the spring sun through the one-sealed window running with tears, while the drugged, bedraggled hens at the back door whimper and snivel for the licorice bog-black tea.
From Manchester House, Llanrhegydd, sole prop Mr. Mog Edwards, late of tooth, linen draper, haberdasher, master tailor, costumier. For West End, negligee, lingerie, tea gowns, evening dress, trousseau, layers. Also ready to wear for all occasions, economical outfit and for agricultural employment, our speciality. Wardrobes bought. Among our satisfied customers, ministers of religion and JPs. Fittings by appointment. Advertising weekly in the Tooth Bugle. Beloved Myfanwy Price, my bride in heaven.
I love you until death do us part, and then we shall be together forever and ever. A new parcel of ribbons has come from Carmarthen today. All the colours in the rainbow. I wish I could tie a ribbon in your hair. A white one, but it cannot be. I dreamed last night you were all dripping wet and you sat on my lap as the Reverend Jenkins went down the street. You see, you got a mermaid in your lap, he said, and he lifted his hat. He's a proper Christian. Not like Cherry Owen, who said you should have thrown her back, he said. Business is very poorly. Polly Garter bought 2 garters with their roses, but she never got stockings, so what is the use, I say. Mr. Waldo tried to sell me a women's nightie outsize. He said he found it, and we know where. I sold a packet of pins to Tom the Sailors to pick his teeth. If this goes on, I shall be in the workhouse. My heart is in your bosom, and yours is in mine. God be with you always, Myfanwy Price, and keep you lovely for me in his heavenly mansion. I must stop now and remain your eternal Mog Edwards.
And then a little message with a rubber stamp. Shop at Mog's.
And willy-nilly, rumbling, jockeys out again to the 3-seated shack called the House of Commons in the back, where the hens weep and seas in sudden springshine.
Herringles heckling down to the harbour where the fishermen spit and prop the morning up, and I the fishy sea smooth to the sea's end as it lulls in blue. Green and gold money, tobacco, tinned salmon, hats with feathers, pots of fish paste, warm for the winter to be, weave and leap in it, rich and slippery in the flash and shapes of fishes through the cold sea streets. But with blue lazy eyes the fishermen gaze at that milkmaid, whispering water with no ruck or ripple, as though it blew great guns and serpents and typhooned the town.
Who rough for fishing today?
And they thank God and gobble a gob for luck, and Moss, slow and silent, make their way uphill from the still sea towards the sailor's arms as the children
spank and scamper, rough and singing out of school into the draggle-tail yard, and Captain Cat at his window says soft to himself the words of their song.
Johnny Crack and Flossie Small kept their baby in a milking pail. Flossie Snail and Johnny Crack, one would pull it out and one would pull it back. Oh, it's my turn now, said Flossie Snail, to take the baby from the milking pail. And it's my turn now, said Johnny Crack, to smack it on the head and put it back. Johnny Crack and Flossie Snail kept their baby in a milking pail. One would put it back and one would pull it out, and all it had to drink was ale and stout. But Johnny Crack and Flossie Snail always used to say that stout and ale was good for a baby in a milking pail.
The music of the spheres is heard distinctly over Milkwood. It is the rustle of spring.
A glee party sings in Bethesda graveyard, gay but muffled.
Vegetables make love above the tenors.
And dogs bark blue in the face.
Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard belches in a teeny hanky and chases the sunlight with a fly whisk. But even she cannot drive out the spring. From one of the finger bowls, a primrose grows.
Mrs. Diebread 1 and Mrs. Diebread 2 are sitting outside their house in Donkey Lane. One darkly, one plumply blooming in the quick, dewy sun. Mrs. Diebread 2 is looking into a crystal ball, which she holds in the lap of her dirty yellow petticoat, hard against her hard, dark thighs.
My palm was silver, out of our housekeeping money. Ah.
What do you see, lovey?
I see a feather bed with 3 pillows on it and a text above the bed. I can't read what it says. There's great clouds blowing. Now they have blown away. God is love, the text says.
That's our bed.
Now it's vanished. The sun's spinning like a top. Who's that coming out of the sun? It's a hairy little man with pink lips. He's got a walleye.
It's Diebread.
Shh. The feather bed's floating back. The little man's taking his boots off. He's pulling his shirt over his head. He's beating his chest with his fists. And he's climbing into bed.
Go on. Go on.
There's 2 women in the bed. He looks at them both with his head cocked on one side. He's whistling through his teeth. Now he grips his little arms around one of the women.
Oh, which one? Which one?
I can't see anymore. The great clouds are blowing again.
Ah, the mean old clouds.
The morning is all singing. The Reverend Eli Jenkins, busy on his morning calls, stops outside the welfare hall to hear Polly Garter as she scrubs the floors for the Mothers' Union dance tonight.
He lived a man whose name was Tom. He was strong as a bear and 2 yards long. I loved a man whose name was Dick. He was big as a barrel and 3 feet thick. And I loved a man whose name was Harry, 6 feet tall and sweet as a cherry. But the one I loved best, awake or asleep, was little Willie Wee, and he's 6 feet deep. Oh, Tom, Dick, and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But little Willie Wee, who took me on his knee, little Willie Wee was the man for me. Now men from every parish round run after me and roll me on the ground. But whenever I love another man back, Johnny from the hill or Sailing Jack, I always think, as they do what they please, of Tom, Dick, and Harry, who were tall as trees. And most I think, when I'm by their side, of little Willie Wee, who drowned and died. Oh, Tom, Dick, and Harry were 3 fine men, and I'll never have such loving again. But little Willie Wee, who took me on his knee, little Willie Weasel is the man for me.
Praise the Lord. We are a musical nation.
And the Reverend Jenkins hurries on through the town to visit the sick with jelly and poems.
The town's as full as a lovebird's egg,
There goes the Reverend.
says Mr. Waldo at the smoked herring-brown window of the unwashed Sailor's Arms.
With his brolly and his odes. Fill him up, Sinbad. I'm on the treacle today.
The silent fishermen flush down their pints.
Oh, Mr. Waldo,
Sighs Sinbad sailors.
I dote on that Gossamer Bynum. She's a lady all over.
And Mr. Waldo, who is thinking of a woman as soft as Eve and sharp as sciatica to share his bread pudding bed, answers,
No lady that I know is.
And if only Grandma'd die, cross my heart, I'd go down on my knees, Mr. Waldo, and I'd say, Miss Gossamer, I'd say.
When birds do sing, hey ding-a-ding-ding, sweet lovers love the spring.
Polly Garter sings, still on her knees.
Tom, Dick and Harry were three fine men, and I'll never have such
Ding-a-ding.
again.
and the morning school is over, and Captain Cat at his curtained schooner's porthole, open to the spring sun tides, hears the naughty forfeiting children tumble and rhyme on the cobbles.
Gwenny, call the boys. They make such a noise.
Boys, 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 come along to me.
Boys, 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 kiss Gwenny where she stays, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny.
Kiss me in Goosegog Lane, or give me a penny. What's your name?
Billy,
Kiss me in Goosegog Lane, Billy, or give me a penny, silly.
Gwenny, Gwenny, I kissed you in Goosegog Lane. Now I haven't got to give you a penny.
Boys, 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 kiss Gwenny where she says, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny.
Kiss me on Llagerib Hill, or give me a penny. What's your name?
Johnny Cristo.
Kiss me on Llagerib Hill, Johnny Crystal, or give me a penny, mister.
Gwenny, I kissed you on Llareg Hill. Now I haven't got to give you a penny.
Boys, 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 kiss Gwenny where she stays, or give her a penny. Go on, Gwenny.
Kiss me in Milkwood, or give me a penny. What's your name?
Dicky.
Kiss me in Milkwood, Dicky, or give me a penny, quickly.
Gwenny, I can't kiss you in Milkwood.
Gwenny, ask him why.
Why?
Because my mother says I mustn't.
Cowardy, cowardy custard, give Gwenny a penny.
Give me a penny.
I haven't got any.
Put him in the river.
Up to his liver.
Quick, quick, dirty Dick.
Hit him on a bum.
With a rhubarb stick.
And the shrill girls giggle and master around him and squeal as they clutch and thrash, and he blubbers away downhill with his patched pants falling, and his tear-splashed blush burns all the way as the triumphant bird-like sisters scream with buttons in their claws. And the bully brothers hoot after him his little nickname and his mother's shame and his father's wickedness with the loose, wild, barefoot women of the hovels of the hills. It all means nothing at all. And howling for his milky mum for her cowl and buttermilk and cow breath and Welsh cakes and the fat birth-smelling bed and moonlit kitchen of her arms, he'll never forget as he paddles blind home through the weeping end of the world. Then his tormentors tussle and run to the Cockle Street sweet shop, their pennies sticky as honey to buy from Miss Mavanwy Price, who is cocky and neat as a puff-bosomed robin and a small round buttocks tight as ticks, gobstoppers big as wens that rainbow as you suck, brandy balls, wine gums, hundreds and thousands, licorice sweet as sick, nuggets to tug and ribbon out like another red rubbery tongue, gum to glue in girls' curls, crimson cough drops to spit's blood, ice cream cornets, dandelion and burdock, raspberry and cherryade, pop goes the weasel and the wind.
Gossamer Bynum high heels out of school. The sun hums down through the cotton flowers of her dress into the bell of her heart, and buzzes in the honey there, the couches and kisses, lazy loving and booze in her red buried breast. Eyes run from the trees and windows of the streets, steaming gossamer and strip her to the nipples and the bees. She blazes naked past the sailor's arms, the only woman on the diademed earth. Sinbad sailor's places on her thighs, still dew damp from the first man-growing cockcrow garden, his reverend goat-bearded hands.
I don't care if he's common.
She whispers to her salad-day deep self.
I want to gobble him up. I don't care if he does drop his H's.
She tells the stripped mother of the world, big-beamed and Eve-hipped spring of herself.
So long as he's all cucumber and hooves.
Sinbad sailors watches her go by, demure and proud and schoolmarm in her crisp flower dress and sun-defying hat, with never a look or lilt or wriggle, the butcher's unmelting ice-maiden daughter veiled forever from the hungry hug of his eyes.
Oh, Gossamer Bainon, why are you so proud?
He grieves to his Guinness.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful Gossamer Bee. I wish that you were for me. I wish you were not so educated.
She feels his goat beard tickle her in the middle of the world like a tuft of wiry fire, and she turns in a terror of delight away from his whips and whiskery conflagration, and sits down in the kitchen to a plate of heaped high with chips and the kidneys of lambs.
In the blind-drawn dark dining room of Schoolhouse, dusty and echoing as a dining room in a vault, Mr. and Mrs. Pugh are silent over cold, grey cottage pie. Mr. Pugh reads as he forks the shroud meat in from Lives of the Great Poisoners. He has bound a plain brown paper cover round the book. Slyly, between slow mouthfuls, he side-spies up at Mrs. Pugh, poisons her with his eye, then goes on reading. He underlines certain passages and smiles in secret.
Persons with manners do not read at the table,
says Mrs. Pugh. She swallows a digestive tablet as big as a horse pill, washing it down with clouded pea soup water.
Some persons were brought up in pigsties.
Pigs don't read at table, dear.
Bitterly, she flicks dust from the broken cruet. It settles on the pie in a thin gnat rain.
Pigs can't read, my dear.
I know one who can.
Alone in the hissing laboratory of his wishes, Mr. Pugh minces among bad bats and Jeroboams, tiptoes through spinneys of murdering herbs, agony dancing in his crucibles, and mixes, especially for Mrs. Pugh, a venomous porridge unknown to toxicologists, which will scald and viper through her until her ears fall off like figs, her toes grow big and black as balloons, and steam comes screaming out of her navel.
You know best, dear,
says Mr. Pugh, and quick as a flash, he ducks her in rat soup.
What's that by your trough, Mr. Pugh?
It's a theological work, my dear. Lives of the Great Saints.
Mrs. Pugh smiles. An icicle forms in the cold air of the dining vault.
I saw you talking to a saint this morning. Saint Polygata. She was martyred again last night. Mrs. Organ Morgan saw her with Mr. Waldo.
And when they saw me, they pretended they were looking for nests,
said Mrs. Organ Morgan to her husband, with her mouth full of fish as a pelican's.
But you don't go nesting in wrong combinations, I said to myself, like Mr. Waldo was wearing, and your dress nearly over your head like Polygata's. Oh, you didn't fool me.
One big bird gulp and the flounder's gone. She licks her lips and goes stabbing again.
And when you think of all those babies she's got, then all I can say is she'd better give up bird nesting. That's all I can say. It isn't the right hobby at all for a woman that can't say no even to midgets. Remember Bob Spit? He wasn't any bigger than a baby, and he gave it too. But they're nice boys. I will say that. Fred, Spit, and Arthur. Sometimes I like Fred best, and sometimes I like Arthur. Who do you like best, Organ?
Oh, Bach, without any doubt. Bach every time for me.
Oh, Organ Morgan, you haven't been listening to a word I said. It's always organ with you.
and she bursts into tears, and in the middle of her salty howling, nimbly spears a small flatfish and pelicans it whole.
And then, Palestrina,
says Organ Morgan.
Lord Cutglass, in his kitchen full of time, squats down alone to a dog-dish-marked Fido of peppery fish scraps and listens to the voices of his 66 clocks, one for each year of his loony age, and watches, with love, their black and white moony, loud-lit faces talking the earth away. Slow clocks, quick clocks, pendulum heart knocks, china, alarm, grandfather, cuckoo, clocks shaped like Noah's whirring ark, clocks that bicker in marble ships, clocks in the wombs of glass women, hourglass chimers, to-wit-to-woo clocks, clocks that pluck tunes, Vesuvius clocks, all black bells and lava, Niagara clocks that cataract their ticks, old-time weeping clocks with ebony beards, clocks with no hands forever drumming out time, without ever knowing what time it is. His 66 singers are all set at different hours. Lord Cutglass lives in a house and a life at siege. Any minute or dark day now, the unknown enemy will loot and savage downhill, but they will not catch him napping. 66 different times in his fish slimy kitchen, ping, strike, tick, chime, and tock.
The lust and lilt and lather and emerald breeze and crackle of the bird praise and body of spring, with its breasts full of rivering Main milk, means to that lordly fish-headed nibbler nothing but another nearness to the tribes and navies of the last black day, who will sear and pillage down Armageddon Hill, to his double-locked, rusty-shuttered, tick-tock, scrabbled shack at the bottom of the town that has fallen head over bells in love.
And I'll never have such loving again.
Pretty Polly hums and longs.
Now when farmers' boys, on the first fair day, come down from the hills to drink and be gay, before the sun sinks, I'll lie there in their arms, for they're good bad boys from the lonely farms. But I always think as we tumble in bed, of little Willie Wee who is dead, dead, dead.
The sunny, slow, lulling afternoon yawns and moons through the dozy town. The sea lolls, laps, and idles in with fishes sleeping in its lap. The meadows still as Sunday, the shut-eye tasseled bulls, the goat and daisy dingles nap happy and lazy. The dumb duck pond snooze, clouds sag and pillow on Llaregib Hill. Pigs grunt in a wet wallow bath and smile as they snort and dream. They dream of the acorn swill of the world, the rooting for pig fruit, the bagpipe dugs of the mother sow, the squeal and snuffle of yeses of the women pigs in rut. They mud bask and snout in the pig-loving sun. Their tails curl, they rollick and slobber and snore to deep, smug after-swill sleep. Donkeys angelically drowse on Donkey Down.
Persons with manners,
Snaps Mrs. Cold Pugh.
do not nod at the table.
Mr. Pugh cringes awake. He puts on a soft, soaping smile. It is sad and grey under his nicotine, egg-yellow, weeping walrus Victorian moustache, worn thick and long in memory of Dr. Crippen.
You should wait until you retire to your sty,
says Mrs. Pugh, as sweet as a razor. His fawning, measly quarter smile freezes. Sly and silent, he foxes into his chemist's den, and there, in a hiss and prussic circle of cauldrons and phials, brimful with pox and the Black Death, cooks up a fricassee of deadly nightshade, nicotine, hot frog, cyanide, and bat spit for his needling stalactite hag and bednag of a poker-backed nutcracker wife.
I beg your pardon, my dear.
He murmurs with a wheedle.
Captain Cat at his window thrown wide to the sun and the clippered seas he sailed long ago when his eyes were blue and bright. Slumbers and voyages, ear-ringed and rolling, I love you, Rosie Probert, tattooed on his belly. He brawls with broken bottles in the fug and babel of the dark dock bars, rows with a herd of short and good time cows in every naughty port, and twines and souses with the drowned and blousy-breasted dead. He weeps as he sleeps and sails.
One voice of all he remembers most dearly as his dream buckets down. Lazy early Rosie with the flaxen thatch, whom he shared with Tom, Fred, the donkey man, and many other seamen. Clearly and near to him speaks from the bedroom of her dust. In that gulf and haven, fleets by the dozen have anchored for the little heaven of the night. But she speaks to Captain Napping Cat alone. Mrs. Probert.
From Duck Lane, Jack, quack twice and ask for Rosie.
Is the one love of his sea life that was sardined with women.
What seas did you see, Tomcat? Tomcat, in your sailoring days long, long ago? What sea beasts were in the wavery green when you were my master?
I'll tell you the truth. Seas barking like seals, blue seas and green, seas covered with eels and mermen and whales.
What seals did you sail, old whaler, when on the blubbery waves between Frisco and Wales? You were my bosun.
As true as I'm here, dear you, Tomcat's tart, you landlubber Rosie, you cozy love, my easy as easy, my true sweetheart. Seas green as a bean, seas gliding with swans, in the seal barking moon.
What seas for rocking, my little deckhand, my favourite husband, in your sea boots and hunger, my duck, my whaler, my honey, my daddy, my pretty sugar sailor, with my name on your belly when you were a boy, long, long ago?
I'll tell you no lies. The only sea I saw was the seesaw sea, with you riding on it. Lie down, lie easy, let me shipwreck in your thighs.
Knock twice, Jack, at the door of my grave, and ask for Rosie.
Oh, Rosie Probert.
Remember her? She is forgetting. The earth which filled her mouth is vanishing from her. Remember me. I have forgotten you. I am going into the darkness of the darkness forever. I have forgotten that I was ever born.
Look!
Says a child to a mother as they pass by the window of Schooner House.
Captain Cat is crying.
Captain Cat is crying.
Back, come back.
Up the silences and echoes of the passages of the eternal night.
He's crying all over his nose.
Says the child. Mother and child move on down the street.
He's got a nose like strawberries.
The child says, and then she forgets him too. She sees in the still middle of the blue-bagged bay no good boyo fishing from the Zanzibar.
No good boy who gave me 3 pennies yesterday, but I wouldn't.
The child tells her mother.
Boyo catches a whalebone corset. It is all he has caught all day.
Bloody funny fish.
Mrs. Diebread too gypsies up his mind's slow eye, dressed only in a bangle.
She's wearing her nightgown. Would you like this nice wet corset, Mrs. Diebread too?
No, I won't.
And a bite of my little apple?
He offers with no hope.
She shakes her brass nightgown and he chases her out of his mind. And when he comes gusting back, there in the bloodshot centre of his eye, a geisha girl grins and bows in a kimono of rice paper.
I want to be good, boyo, but nobody'll let me.
He sighs as she arrives politely. The land fades, the sea flocks silently away, and through the warm white cloud where he lies, silky, tingling, uneasy Eastern music undoes him in a Japanese minute.
The afternoon buzzes like lazy bees round the flowers round May Road's cottage, nearly asleep in the field of nanny goats who hum and gently butt the sun. She blows love on a puffball.
He loves me not. He loves me not. He loves me, the dirty old fool.
Lazy, she lies alone in clover and sweetgrass. 17, and never been sweet in the grass.
The Reverend Eli Jenkins, inky in his cool front parlour or poem room, tells only the truth in his life work, the population, main industry, shipping, history, topography, flora and fauna of the town he worships in, the White Book of Llanrheadr. Portraits of famous bards and preachers, all fur and wool from the squint to the kneecaps, hang over him heavy as sheep, next to faint lady watercolours of pale green milkwood, like a lettuce salad dying. His mother, propped against a pot in a palm with a wedding ring waist and bust like a black clove dining table, suffers in her stays.
Oh, angels, be careful there with your knives and forks.
He prays, there is no known likeness of his father Esau, who, undog-collared because of his little weakness, was scythed to the bone one harvest by mistake when sleeping with his weakness in the corn. He lost all ambition and died with one leg.
Poor Dad.
Grieves the Reverend Eli.
To die of drink and agriculture.
Farmer Watkins in Salt Lake Farm hates his cattle on the hill as he ho-hos them into milking.
Damn you, you damn dairies!
A cow kisses him.
Bite her to death!
He shouts to his deaf dog, who smiles and licks his hands.
Gore him! Sit on him, Daisy!
He bawls to the cow who barbed him with her tongue, and she moves gentle words as he raves and dances among his summer-bathed slaves, walking delicately to the farm. The coming of the end of the spring day is already reflected in the lakes of their great eyes. Bessie Bighead greets them by the names she gave them when they were maidens.
Peg, Meg, Buttercup, Moll, Fan from the Castle, Theodosia, and Daisy.
They bow their heads. Look up Bessie Bighead in the White Book of Llanrheadr, and you will find the few haggard rags and the one poor glittering thread of her history, laid out in pages there, with as much love and care as the lock of hair as a first lost love. Conceived in milkwood, born in a barn, wrapped in paper, left on a doorstep, big-headed and bass-voiced, she grew in the dark until long-dead Gomerone kissed her when she wasn't looking, because he was dead. Now in the light she'll work, sing, milk, say the cow's sweet names, and sleep until the night sucks out her soul and spits it into the sky. In her lifelong love light, holily Bessie milks the fond lake-eyed cows, as dusk showers slowly down over byre, sea, and town. Utah Watkins curses through the farmyard on a cart horse.
Gallop, you bleeding cripple!
And the huge horse neighs softly, as though he had given it a lump of sugar.
Now the town is dusk. Each couple, donkey, goose, and gooseberry street is a thoroughfare of dusk. And dusk and ceremonial dust and night's first darkening snow and the sleep of birds drift under and through the live dusk of this place of love. Llanrheadr is the capital of dusk. Mrs. Ogmore Pritchard, at the first drop of the dusk shower, seals all her sea view doors, draws the germ-free blinds, sits erect as a dyed dream on a high-backed hygienic chair, and wills herself to cold, quick sleep. At once, at twice, Mr. Ogmore and Mr. Pritchard, who all dead day long have been gossiping like ghosts in the woodshed, planning the loveless destruction of their glass widow, reluctantly sigh and sidle into a clean house.
You first, Mr. Ogmore.
No, after you, Mr. Pritchard.
No, no, Mr. Ogmore. You widowed her first.
And in through the keyhole, with tears where their eyes once were, they ooze and crumble.
Husband?
She says in her sleep. There is acid love in her voice for one of the two shambling phantoms. Mr. Ogmore hopes that it is not for him. So does Mr. Pritchard.
I love you both.
No, Mrs. Ogmore.
Oh, Mrs. Pritchard.
Soon it will be time to go to bed. Tell me your tasks in order.
We must
We must
take
take
our
our
pajamas from the
drawer
drawer-marked pajamas.
And then you must take them off.
Down in the dusking town, May Rose Cottage, still lying in clover, listens to the nanny goats chew, draws circles of lipstick round her nipples.
I'm fast. I'm a bad lot. God will strike me dead. I'm 17. I'll go to hell.
She tells the goats.
You just wait. I'll sin till I blow up.
She lies deep, waiting for the worst to happen. The goats champ and sneer.
And at the doorway of Bethesda House, the Reverend Jenkins recites to Llaregib Hill his sunset poem.
Every morning when I wake, dear Lord, a little prayer I make. Oh, please to keep thy lovely eye on all poor creatures born to die. And every evening at sundown, I ask a blessing on the town. For whether we last the night or no, I'm sure is always touch and go. We are not wholly bad or good, who live our lives under Milkwood. And thou, I know, wilt be the first to see our best side, not our worst. Oh, let us see another day. Bless us all this night, I pray. And to the sun we all will bow and say goodbye, but just for now.
Jack Black prepares once more to meet his Satan in the wood. He grinds his night teeth, closes his eyes, climbs into his religious trousers, their flies sewn up with cobbler's thread, and pads out torched and Bibled grimly, joyfully into the already thinning dusk.
After Gomorrah!
And Lily Smalls is up to no good boil in the wash house.
And Cherry Owen, sober as Sunday as he is every day of the week, goes off happy as Saturday to get drunk as a deacon as he does every night.
I always say she's got two husbands.
Says Cherry Owen.
One drunk and one sober.
And Mrs. Cherry simply says,
And aren't I a lucky woman? Because I love them both.
Evening, Cherry.
Evening, Sinbad.
What'll you have?
Too much.
Sailor's Arms is always open.
Sinbad suffers to himself, heartbroken.
Oh, Gossamer, open yours.
Dusk is drowned forever until tomorrow. It is all at once night now. The windy town is a hill of windows, and from the larruped waves, the lights of the lamps in the windows call back the day and the dead that have run away to sea. All over the calling dark, babies and old men are bribed and lullabied to sleep.
Hush-a-bye, baby, the Sandman is coming.
Rock-a-bye, grandpa on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come grandpa, whiskers and all.
Or their daughters cover up the old unwinking men like parrots, and in their little dark, in the lit and bustling young kitchen corners, all night long they watch beady-eyed the long night through, in case death catches them asleep.
Unmarried girls, alone in their privately bridal bedrooms, powder and curl for the dance of the world. They make, in front of their looking glasses, haughty or come-hithering faces for the young men in the street outside, at the lamp-lit leaning corners, who wait in the all-at-once wind to woof and whistle.
The drinkers in the Sailor's Arms drink to the failure of the dance.
Down with the waltzing and the skipping.
Dancing isn't natural.
Righteously says Cherry Owen, who has just downed 17 pints of flat, warm, thin, Welsh, bitter beer.
A farmer's lantern glimmers, a spark on Llaregib hillside.
Llaregib Hill, writes the Reverend Jenkins in his poem room.
Llaregib Hill, that mystic tumulus, the memorial of peoples that dwelt in the region of Llaregib before the Celts left the land of summer, and where the old wizards made themselves a wife out of flowers.
Mr. Waldo, in his corner of the Sailor's Arms, sings,
In Pembroke City, when I was young, I lived by the castle keep. 6 pence a week was my wages for working for the chimney sweep. 6 cold pennies he gave me, not a farthing more or less, and all the fare I could afford was parsnip gin and watercress. I did not need a knife and fork or a bib up to my chin to dine on a dish of watercress and a jug of parsnip gin. Did you ever hear a growing boy to live so cruel cheap, on grub that has no flesh and bones, and liquor that makes you weep? Sweep, sweep, chimney sweep, I went through Pembroke City, poor and barefoot in the snow, till a kind young woman took pity. Poor little chimney sweep, she said, black as the ace of spades. Oh, nobody swept my chimney since my husband went his ways. Come and sweep my chimney, come and sweep my chimney, she sighed to me with a blush. Come and sweep my chimney, come and sweep my chimney, bring along your chimney brush.
Blind Captain Cat climbs into his bunk. Like a cat, he sees in the dark. Through the voyages of his tears, he sails to see the dead.
Dancing Williams,
Still dancing,
Jonah Jarvis,
Still,
Curly Bevan Skull,
Rosie with God, she has forgotten Diane.
The dead come out in their Sunday best.
listen to the night breaking.
Organ Morgan goes to chapel to play the organ. He sees Bach lying on a tombstone.
Johann Sebastian!
oh,
Johann Sebastian, mighty Bach! Oh, Bach! Bach!
to hell with you.
Says Cherry Owen, who is resting on the tombstone on his way home.
Mr. Mogg Edwards and Miss Mavanwy Price happily apart from one another at the top and the sea end of town, write their every night letters of love and desire. In the warm white book of Llaregib, you will find the little maps of the islands of their contentment.
Oh, my Mog, I am yours forever.
And she looks around with pleasure at her own neat and never dull room, which Mr. Mogg Edwards will never enter.
come to my arms, Mivanwy.
And he hugs his lovely money to his own heart.
And Mr. Waldo, drunk in the dusky wood, hugs his lovely Polly Garter under the eyes and rattling tongues of the neighbours and the birds, and he does not care. He smacks his live red lips. But it is not his name that Polly Garter whispers as she lies under the oak and loves him back. 6 feet deep that name sings in the cold earth.
But I'll always think as we tumble into bed of little Willie Wee, who is dead, dead, dead.
The thin night darkens. A breeze from the creased water sighs the streets close under milk-waking wood. The wood, whose every tree foot's cloven in the black glad sight of the hunters of lovers, that is a God-built garden to Mary Ann sailors, who knows there is heaven on earth and the chosen people of his kind fire in Llaregib's land. That is the fair day farmhands wantoning ignorant chapel of bride's beds, and to the Reverend Eli Jenkins, a green-leaved sermon on the innocence of men. The suddenly wind-shaken wood springs awake for the second dark time, this one spring day. Tonight's performance has been brought to you by Infinite Jest, and this is the company's first public performance. We want to thank you for joining us. Next week, we will be offering a reading of an original one-act play written by our very own second voice, Matthew. We hope you can join us. That's on Friday, the 22nd of May at 8 p.m. Some closing thank yous before we part. To our General Overseer and Technical Mage, Leanne, thank you so much for all your hard work on this project. What you know about technical side, I can't even begin to fathom. I'd still be plugging into the wrong socket when you have made this amazing presentation. Thank you so much, Leanne, and thank you for your passion for theatre to try something different like this. I'd also like to thank our overseers in the background. That would be Monique and Josh. Thank you for keeping an eye on the streaming. Very much appreciated. Absolutely, thank you very much. A special mention to our Inspector of Grammar, Graham. Safe to say, Graham, that your tireless pursuit to ensure that we said every word as it should be
You still didn't.
raised the game. Thank you for trying. Last but not least, a special thank you to the cast who have done amazing work in a very short window of time. It was a very, I think it's safe to say, crazy gamble when it was mooted to do this for Dylan Day a week ago, but they have come through in such stripes of glory and wonder that I can only thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To
Thank you,
close,
Mr. Director.
To close then, stay home, stay safe, stay inspired, and peace and best wishes be with you all. Nostar, good night.
Wash your hands.
Nostar.
Stay safe, everyone. Cheers.
Stay safe.
Cheers.